you there? And it's on mute. We're live. Come on. And I think we're now live. Hi, everybody. Wanted to let everybody get on online here and make sure that everything was in order. So welcome back to Spirit Focus with Robert Painley. And we have Mark Bianchi here with me this evening. We're not wearing masks. We are COVID friendly with each other, so we're good to go. But I want to take a couple minutes before we start here. And so we have Terry Angel that took us live tonight. So thank you, Terry, in the background. For those of us who joined us a couple weeks ago, you had two boomers out there trying to figure out technology. So thanks for bearing with us while we did that. It was scary. It was scary. But we managed to do it. And now Mark and I are going to be properly trained so that we know what we're doing, hopefully. And hopefully, you know, teaching old dogs new tricks is something that can be accomplished. So anyway, thanks for bearing with us for a couple minutes of the last show. So today, we talked a lot about back on Robert's Haunted Pajama Party about doing a show that talked about all kinds of viewer questions. And finally, we had a chance to go through, 13 shows and look at a variety of questions, plus all the shows that are all the emails that I had gotten privately from people who sent them to my Gmail account. So tonight also, if you have questions, please feel free to send them in. Mark is going to be looking at the feed while we're talking here, and he's going to be reading some of the questions and going through some of what you had some questions about over this process. So welcome to Enlightened World Living and Enlightened Living. And did I say it right?
No. Enlightened World Network, Enlightened Living.
Sorry about that. I was married.
It's a bit of a tongue twister.
Enlightened World Network, Enlightened Living. Here we are. So welcome aboard. And so we haven't had that much to drink yet. What do we have tonight?
Vodka cran ras.
Vodka cran ras. So welcome aboard. So I think we're just going to jump right in and start asking and answering some viewer questions tonight.
So I've been keeping track of questions that Robert's gotten either through his email or in his comments thread as we've been going along. So we both thought that would be a great idea for a show that Robert could give some insight into the whole paranormal and the spirit world and what he feels especially. Yeah. So are you ready for question number one?
Question one.
Okay. So Robert,
with your best
Cheryl writes in and asks,
yes,
when you say you're getting a female figure, for instance,
okay,
a person that's deceased coming through, what does that feel or sound like for you? Describe, like, if you can describe your experience a little bit, what that's like.
A female. I wonder why. Interesting.
Male, female, just what it feels like.
Okay. It's interesting, and I feel it in different ways at different times. So I'll try to explain. Thanks, Cheryl, for the question, by the way. So so it comes in a variety of aspects for me. Usually, if I'm in someone's home and I start to feel a spirit, or even if it's a spirit in my own house, I usually start to feel that there's something around. There's a presence. I start to get a heavy feeling sometimes, or sometimes it's love, sometimes it's a negative feeling, but a feeling nonetheless where I feel something starts to change. And when that happens, I kind of take notice of it. That's kind of the first indication to me that something's going on in the house. If I'm reading a client, for example, I may have the client sitting next to me, across the table or something, and I will start to pick up on somebody maybe saying something or start to see something. A lot of times it's different all the time. It's hard to explain this one because it will change. Sometimes I get them in advance of seeing my client like the day ahead of time. I will start to pick up on people coming to visit me here at the house. But most of the time I have to say, I see them. They do come through for me very clearly. Sometimes we're sitting kind of in the dining room, kind of looking back toward the kitchen right now, but right over on that side of the house is the front door. And a lot of times they'll be locking up the house at night. And sometimes I just get a head that, I wish you could do it on the camera here, that kind of pokes out the side. It kind of looks at me and they'll take a look, and we kind of make a connection. And I know that I'm going to have a good reading the next day because I've already connected with their energy. But a lot of times I have a kind of like a TV set that sits right here over the shoulder on this side, on my right side. And that's kind of where I see people. Like it's almost like a TV screen, but it's black inside. And then when I see people in that space, they're kind of illuminated from the inside out, where I can see their clothing, see what they look like, see what they're wearing. Usually I don't get a full body unless there's a reason for me to see their full body. So, you know, maybe there's a prosthetic legs or something that they want me to see, because it helps me to, you know, when I do the reading, for them to get to make a validation there. But most of the time it really has to do with sight. I do see them that way, or they'll come to me in my dream state. So every spirit is different, and a lot depends on how strong they are from spirit. A lot of times I'll get weaker energy. Sometimes I'll get people who may have committed suicide or something happened to them, and they kind of are maybe a little, I hate to say embarrassed, but they're a little kind of shy about putting their energy forward with me sometimes, because you know, they're maybe they take what they did in their life. They don't want to maybe take that responsibility for it, or whatever the reason is, they kind of hold their energy back a little bit. And so sometimes they are a little bit harder to read, and I may only hear them. And sometimes they get a name very clearly. So it really just depends on the spirit. So what was the exact question?
Well, when you're seeing that and feeling that spirit entity there, and you're getting them, what exactly are you getting? What's it like? Is it like a TV screen?
Yeah. So again, it's all over the board for me. I always get something. I think there's only been once where something didn't come through. But other than that, most of the time it's either a voice or that I hear very clearly, and sometimes it's audible. Sometimes it's just in my head, and I just kind of know what somebody's saying. Kind of like if you're like a thought, like you're having a thought. Otherwise, like you would, you know, just see anybody else that may walk into your house. They're walking into my house, and I connect with their energy, and I can see them. And here in the house, we'll be sitting, the living room's on the other side here, and we'll be sitting there talking, and we'll be watching TV, and Mark will be sitting on the side of me, and I'll say, "Hey, Mark, we have a spirit on the other side of the bar." And he'll go, "What?" And I will watch them walk through the bar, walk up to me while we're watching TV. He can't see them all, and I will explain what's going on, how they're dressed, what's happening, and he can't see anything. And so I think it's odd. What do you feel? What is it? What do you think when I do that? When I tell you stuff like that?
Well, I often wonder, you know, kind of what Cheryl asked, you know, when you say you see it or you feel it, you know, do you see it or feel it like another human being, like I would in the physical world? You know, I often wondered, like, do you see an ectoplasm? Do you see a person? Do you hear a voice? Do you get a thought message? You know,
And it's all of those things. So, you know, very rarely is it like just a shadow or something. I do see shadow people, and I do see other types of entities. But typically, if it's somebody that I'm supposed to give a message for in that regard, there will usually always be somebody that I see very clearly, that comes to me. And a lot of times, sometimes it's strange, because I wake it up, you know, in bed at 2:00 in the morning, and I'll open my eyes, and there'll be somebody leaning against the wall of the bedroom, just staring at me, and it's disconcerting sometimes, but I know that it's spirit. So I'll be honest with everybody. It's like I lock the bedroom door every night before we go to bed. I lock it, knowing that if I see somebody in the room, it has to be spirit related, because I would hear them knocking in the door, breaking down the door, if it were somebody breaking into the house. So it's kind of my indication that when I see somebody in there, it makes me doesn't make my heart explode out of my chest because I'm afraid. I know that it's somebody in spirit, and then I'll start to, you know, ask the questions that I usually do. It's like, how can I help you? What do you want? Kind of thing. So hope that helps, Cheryl.
Yeah, I think that was a great answer. So a CF writes in and asks, can ghosts really hurt us?
The short answer is yes, but it's very rare that a ghost is going to hurt you. So let me explain a little bit more. So there are different types, and again, like I mentioned before, with ghosts and spirits in general, that sometimes they're very weak, but on the other side of the spectrum, they are relatively strong in some instances. Sometimes it depends on how long they've been in spirits and have not crossed. Depends on whether or not, sometimes they pick up lower vibrations along the way. Sometimes they morph a little bit in their energy. That's never usually a good thing. Otherwise, they would sense the light and go to where they need to go. So when I encounter really kind of nasty energies, I guess I'm going off topic here, they're going to hurt you. The hurt, I think, will come from what they can do to you more in a psychological and spiritual sense. They can do things like today we've tried to get on air and we've got something that was working perfectly all day. We went to get on air and now it doesn't work. So when I get spirits around me, particularly through electronics, things just won't work. So they have enough power and control to do things electronically. I know I've been with spirits before where they've taken a candle that I've lit for protection, that sort of thing, and have managed to set things ablaze in that way with their energy. But most of the time, they will do things because if it's a negative energy, they like to keep you typically in a negative state because it gives them something to feed off of. So they will try to do things to weaken your resolve and to try and bring you down, or if you're an addict, try to make you take on that addictive behavior again, because that's what they're feeding off of. So they will maybe bother you in your sleep all the time so you can't get any rest. And that becomes problematic and it makes you weaker. And if that happens night after night after night, you can imagine what would happen to your energy and your resolve if you didn't sleep for 5 or 6 or 7 days. So it wears you down, and then you can actually hurt yourself by falling down a flight of stairs. But I've had entities push me on stairs. I was working with a friend of mine that I took to help him learn how to do this type of work. And I told him he was the weak link going into this meeting because the entity, the ghost in this instance, had already knew the energy of everybody in the house, and he wasn't going to be able to do anything with me. But he was the weak link, and because he wasn't as protected, didn't know what he was doing, and sure enough, while we were in there, he was pushed and actually wound up with a nasty gash in his leg. So there's all kinds of things that they can do. The pushing is one way. Trying to take your energy down is another way. If you have addictive energy of some sort yourself, they can make you kind of like, they will whisper things, do things, and try to get you to do things through your sleep state. I have family members who I know had people telling them to do things, like nieces and nephews who have things being told to them by nasty energy, got rid of them, but they're trying to do things like that. So can they hurt you? Yes. Do I see it a lot? No. But I do see it and have experienced it myself. Mark has been with me. Mark has been touched and stuff when we've been at hotels and things. And I have, and I've had beds move and levitate and all like cabinet doors open and closing and all kinds of things happen. So some of them have some good energy to them. When that happens, so now we'll go to advice part of this. If that ever happens to you where it's getting that way, claim your space immediately. And what you want to do is try to center yourself, try to take away the fear, claim your space. Get someone in that instance that, please do find a medium that can help you in this regard. Find out, when I go to find these types of things out, I like to find out why the spirit is doing this. There may be a message involved to try and get them to stop them from doing something that's actually positive on occasion, not all the time. And a lot of times, if it's somebody known to the person who's being haunted, it's usually relatively benign. It's the cases where they're unknown to the person inhabiting that house for the most part that I see, where they have really kind of negative, strong energy against it. Either the ghost doesn't want them in that area, wants to keep them apart. They're claiming that space as their own. And you actually need a medium at that point to try and move this energy on and get rid of it, because it can get really nasty in that instance. But a lot of times, I've had friends. I'll give you one example too. We had friends where Mark and I were at a dinner party, and he had just come back from one of the guys. They were friends of ours, a male and a female. And while we're having dinner, I just got the feeling that he was just at a funeral, and he was up in Boston. We're down in Fort Lauderdale. And I told him about, I feel like if I'm going up these stairs, I feel like there's a bedroom on the side of the stairs. It's very unusual. It's an odd place to have a bedroom. He said, it's exactly where I was sleeping. I said, so I'm in that house now. I'm kind of walking up the stairs. I go in there. You've got a nasty guy in this house who is yelling at you. This is his house. He doesn't want you there. And he said he was frightened because he heard this, he was feeling this and was dreaming of this guy, and it happened to be his uncle that had passed. So it was one of those things that, again, it was very clear to me what had happened, what was going on, and he was able to confirm everything. But he did not want him to have this house, did not want the house to be sold within the family. He just wanted to hang out, and he was strong and not the kindest, nicest individual, spirit form. So it can happen in different ways, but yep.
Okay, very good. So on to the next question. So David P asks, are you in touch with, or do you feel spirits all the time, like 24/7?
Okay. Hi, David. Yes and no. So, like I said, when I sleep, I'm susceptible to having them come to me in my dream state. So let me start backwards. Back in the day, I was terrified of the gift because I got negative and positive spirits all the time. Right? And I call them negative. I use it because it's kind of the opposite of positive, but sometimes they weren't nice. Sometimes they were just, I don't know what you call them. Just, they weren't angry. They were just ornery spirits or something. And so sometimes they would come to me all the time. And it took me a reading with another medium who helped me in this regard to make sure that I could turn off the spirits that weren't in God's light, shall we say, from the spirits who are and were. And so once I was able to divide up that information for myself, I could keep the negative entities, negative spirits at bay, out of my house and away from me. And then we're just focused on knowing that anything came to me would be in God's light. So that helped me out immensely. Once I was able to do that for myself, I mean, it kind of sometimes I think ticks off Mark that I don't shut off the gift. He knows of other mediums that he's seen on television, other things who say that they turn it off by putting on a hat or doing other things that let spirit know that they have boundaries. I tend not to like boundaries so much, only because if I'm getting a message from a spirit, it's usually in relation to a client that I have or something, and they're going to come to me when I'm more available and more acceptable, ready and accepting of that message. So I try not to turn it off. There are some nights that I do turn it off, but most of the time I do have to say that I am pretty much on 24/7. So the spirits that will come to me in the dream state are one thing, and they don't usually wake me up. I'll have a dream. It's a vivid dream. I will get what they're trying to tell me in that state. If I get spirits I have them in the car when I'm driving someplace. I have them watching TV and they'll come. I will go to brush my teeth and they'll walk down the hall. Any place. And when we're on vacation, when I'm visiting relatives, I'll tell them about spirits that are coming to see them. And a lot of times these spirits will come to see them. They may not be there all the time, but they know I'm going to be able to, they read my energy so that they know that I'm there and will come and see me, even though they may not be there all the time. And something like that happened in my brother's house. I've been to my brother's house in Ohio numerous times. And when I was there about 2 years ago, I was just going into the bedroom and saw a spirit up at the top of the stairs in a rocking chair, just looking down at me. And that was new because I'd been there numerous times without anything happening. So they find me if they need me, and a message needed to be delivered, and it needed to be delivered to my sister-in-law and her family at that point. So I guess they do find me. So I guess I would have to say I'm on pretty much all the time. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So Becky actually writes in the comments just now.
Okay.
She wants to know, how do you keep your energy up with spirits coming through all the time?
It's tough. I think the thing. Thanks, Becky. I think the thing that I really do all the time that is very helpful is I try and keep myself as centered as possible. Mark actually has, shockingly enough, has very good energy about him, and and we're good, and we're good together. And we laugh a lot. I think laughter, is one of those things that really helps. We both have a great sense of humor. I think it comes through.
He laughs with me. I laugh at him.
Nice. As I typically do, Mark, this would be this point where we just lower these and look at him. So I try and keep that energy good and elevated. I also try and stay grounded as much as possible. I go out barefoot a lot. I walk on the grass. I'll try and keep myself. I pray a lot before I go to bed every night. I try and keep myself very engrossed in prayer and ask for protection a lot. And I've always been, because of my nervous energy, I've kind of always survived on about 5.5 hours of sleep a night. So I really, and I think it's because my energy level is higher because of spirit. So I get my 5.5 hours, I move on. Sometimes I take a nap. Not much, but I do if I need it. But I do only take, like, if I have a client where there's a haunting, for example, I won't do readings that day. I limit to a client on a day, because I don't know whether I'm going to be there for 2 hours or 8 hours or whatever. I mean, I've been places last week. I was at some place for 7.5 hours to get rid of something that they had there that was very, very nasty. So I never know. And then usually I'll come home and maybe sleep for 10 hours or something to kind of recharge my battery. So I think prayer, staying centered, looking at life, not letting life get you down, staying positive. Anything else? And just, I think, filling your life with love and laughter, I think, are the two best ways that you can kind of combat some of the negativity. And if you have those two things, and I'm lucky, I have an abundance of those things through great friends and family and loved ones around, I think that helps immensely. And I get a lot of protection from spirit. So, and I think if you do this kind of work, do pray and send out good intentions and bring and welcome those good intentions to you. Meditation is also very, very good. I found yoga to me is like a workout. I go do an hour of yoga, and it was like I just did a whole chest day. So you find ways for yourself to get rid of the negative energy. Usually when I go do when I see a client, I would go to the gym after that for maybe an hour or something, and just take all that negative energy out on the weights and disperse it, so it's not in me anymore. So I kind of disperse that negative energy. So those are ways that I would suggest that you do it, but that's how I do it as well.
Cool.
Thanks, Becky.
So thank you, Becky. So Tiffany writes in and asks, I've watched your shows on your ghost experiences, a lot of those, and hauntings, etc., similar to that. Do you ever just do simple readings on people?
I do. So, I kind of it's funny. I got started not doing readings. I actually got started by doing hauntings. And so I kind of became more known because in the kind of the South Florida area here for working with people who have entities in their home or business or in the land. But that kind of morphed into doing readings. I was very fortunate early on. Terry Angel, who is helping us in the background now, Terry and I did a group reading about 1.5 years ago, I think now, or been a while. Yeah, and I learned a lot from Terry, and I learned and I took classes on tarot. I think that if you're gifted in some way, open yourself up to other avenues, because Mark knew my ability to do what I do, but Mark too was one of the people who kind of pushed me to kind of get, I guess, what would you call it, to kind of open me up a little bit more to other avenues of spirituality.
Yeah, just to open up and expand and be open to more.
I think that's why I like the show so much. I think the Spirit Focus with Robert Painley and bringing on, a santero or somebody, a witch and things, to try and understand more and just have more information, I think is good, just so we know about it, what's out there in the spiritual realm. But I think for me, I found that I became very good at working, now during COVID, we found, I never really read people over Skype or over FaceTime or something, but found out that it doesn't really make a difference for me. But I was literally about doing it. So I think I keep learning as well. I'm used to doing all of my stuff in person because I think I get much more energy. But as I've grown with my gift too, I think one of the things that I have learned is that if there's a connection, if I need to make that connection, that they give me the ways and the information necessary to be able to do so. So, the validation readings are something that I do. I love to do life course readings are one of my genres that I just love. I love being able to, when somebody has a particular problem from a spiritual nature or from a
Life path,
any type, stuck in their job or in their life in some way, or an addiction. I find a lot of mediums come to me because I know what it's like to go through this process. And burgeoning mediums, a lot of them come to me to try and get advice on what to do and how to help to move forward in their gift. So it covers a lot of spectrum. Doing what I do. And
I see you very much as a spiritual life coach, because I think a lot of times people are having those life journey issues, and when they come to you, you're not only giving them life coaching, intuitive types of advice, you're also giving them messages from the other side that help to guide them on their path through life.
Okay.
I see a lot of that.
It's funny because I don't really realize that it's happening. I don't intentionally go to a reading to do that, but that's how in many instances it turns out. And Mark has met a lot of clients have come to the house here, and Mark knows them, and it's nice when you see the transformation in people's lives because they've had an encounter with a medium and have gotten information that has changed the course of their life. I think every medium that I've ever talked to, Terry's one of them as well, and my friend Roshi Sapiro, other people that I know that still do that when they get to help somebody in this way, it gives you such a feeling, a karmic feeling, and a feeling of just doing God's work and just really being centered. And
I was going to bring that up because I think that's an important aspect of what you do. Is you're always working in God's light, so it's always going to be what's best for that person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You try to do what you can. I try and maybe sometimes stay away from absolute specifics. And a lot of times what I try to steer away from in particular is telling people what to do. I can't make anybody do anything, but I can point out options in their life based on what I'm seeing and what I think what their life course is supposed to be, what I'm being told, and particularly if they're off their life course. I look at your life course as a road, and we have lots of exit ramps and lots of on ramps. And, it's a long road, hopefully, that we all get to go down. But if you get off your road, there's always another on ramp. So look at your life that way. And, that part of my job at that point is to try and tell you where that is, what you need to do, what turns you need to take to get on that on ramp so you're back on your proper life course. Because some of us get bogged down in I need to make the money, or I need to, rather than in what makes your soul sing, what your life purpose is, what you're supposed to be doing on this plane, that your soul is supposed to learn. And I think we get bogged down in that. And, I know people, and quite frankly, I was that way myself for a long time. I made a lot of money, traveled internationally, did all kinds of stuff to do what I did, but I was not centered. I was not doing my life purpose. It took me a long time because most of it was because I was afraid of working with the negative energy that I would feel along with the positive energy. Once I learned how to control that, it was so much easier to stay centered and to find my path here. And I'm so thankful, for the gift now, and so happy that I get to meet amazing people on this network and outside of this network that are all very spiritual and interesting people to help enhance my gift and share my gift and hopefully help some of them on their journeys as well. It's a lovely community.
Mm-hmm. It is. So we have another question from Diane, who writes in and asks, do you get anything on people's dreams? This is an interesting one. She claims that she has had a recurring dream about snakes. How do I know if there's a spiritual meaning behind my dream? I've actually had that one myself.
Snakes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Snakes are interesting. So I'm going to answer kind of specific to the question, and then we'll get into general. So snakes in particular, snakes are interesting because they can have a variety of meanings. And so, well, I guess I'm going to go general first, yeah, because it's going to be easier to explain. So generally speaking, in dreams, so I get visions, which I don't consider dreams. It's kind of like being in a dream state, but it's real interaction outside of the body when you have a kind of a vision that way. You could call it astral projection. You could call it all types of things if you want. It's a variety of kind of relatively the same thing where you're getting this type of information. But it's very, very real, and you're actually having that experience. When you have a dream, it's usually that your subconscious is trying to put together in some way what your consciousness brings into your orbit, and trying to make sense of that. And sometimes you can't make sense of it in your conscious state, so your subconscious tries to figure out ways to make this make sense to you, and to put it into perspective. So in layman's terms, so I think when you have a dream like this, you have to try and figure out whether or not it's actually a dream. And the difference in it between a dream and whether you're astral projecting, whether you're having a vision, whether you're having some other type of experience where you're out of the body per se, you are able to interact very well with people. Ask questions, get answers. In a dream, it will almost be nonsensical. There'll be things like, you're swimming in air and a unicorn is there, or you see a half man, half lizard, or something weird. So who knows? In a dream, you'll get strange things that don't typically make sense, and you need to try and differentiate. Once you start having a vision of sorts, I always like to go into those because I can make myself do that. But once you go into them, have questions ready, know what you're trying to get out of that encounter. And I do that all the time. That's kind of what I do when I'm meditating and trying to connect with spirit. I'm kind of having that conversation outside of me sometimes, to have that. I have to go where they are sometimes to have that conversation. Because it's easier for them than to materialize on this plane as an entity, as energy. It's easier for them to meet them at a place that they don't have to do that sometimes. And yeah, I do that. And, I'll be in a very kind of almost, I don't want to say meditative state, but almost like a trance state that I'll kind of put myself into, almost like a hypnotic state and a trance state, to try and get myself there. And that seems to work really well to kind of push away everything else that's in the outside world, and kind of hone in on just focusing solely on that one bit of information that I'm trying to get. So specific to snakes for now, everything in a dream means something. So if it's a true dream as such, dreams are important. So you have to take into account, is it light in the dream? Is it dark in the dream? Are there colors in the dream? Are you running? In the case of a snake, are you running from the snake? Are you being coiled in the snake? What type of snake is it? Are you walking through a den of snakes and they're not paying attention to you and they go unnoticed and you're moving through them? All of these have different meanings. I mean, very different meanings, because usually if you're walking through like a den of snakes or something like that, and they're not paying attention to you, that's usually an omen that you're going to persevere in the long haul, that you're gonna come out of whatever your entanglement is unscathed. But there are other aspects where you're being coiled, for example, that is it can go range anywhere from sexual in nature to being squeezed literally at work or at home or emotionally or some other things. So you didn't give me any more details. Who's this from, Tiffany?
Yes.
So Tiffany, so anything that the details matter. And what I would do is feel free to write me another email. Let me know what maybe more of the details are, and I could give you more of an inclination as to why you're having that dream. And it also is important sometimes to figure out when you're having dreams. Are you having these under times of stress? I have one dream that I've had for 30, 40 years now. It's always the same dream, and I have it very rarely, but I know when I have them. and I'm usually under a great deal of stress when I have that dream, and it always is the same way. Different people are in the dream, but the circumstances are the same. So the details, the devil's in the details, as they say. And with dreams, it's very, very specific about colors and are you walking? Are you running? Are you moving? Do you see yourself? Who do you see in the dream?
Is it uphill? Is it downhill?
It's exactly. All of those things have so many different meanings to them. Without more detail, I can't be more specific for you, but if you write back again, I'll be happy to help you out as much as I can. But also, I mean, do look up things. There's something called the Dream Dictionary, and you could go ahead and get one of those online. I have found it's a little antiquated because they don't have a lot of modern things in it. If you're looking up, what happens if if all you see a computer or something, and computer's not going to be in it because the book was originally written in 1850s or something. So that's not in there, but some other things are in there. But look that up because I think there is some insight to things that you can find out about your dreams that are interesting and why you're having. Okay.
Very good. Okay. All right. So now this next one, I think you might have talked about this a little bit on your first or second one that you talked about, but Bob R. writes in and asks, when you see, hear, or feel someone's deceased loved one or spirits in general, do you get them where you are in your space right now, or do you ever see them on the other side where they are, like through the other side of the veil or something?
Okay. All of the above. The only exception is I don't see people once they've crossed. I do know mediums who do. I get them to the jumping off spot, and then usually I'll see a flash of light, or I will just feel their presence go from where I'm connected with them. So when I'm dealing with a spirit, like a haunting or a spirit, or just trying to move someone across, I can get them to that point, and then they will cross and move on. And it's an amazing feeling. I'm just going to stop there for a second because it is an amazing feeling to watch them go into the light. I wish I could see. Our dog passed a year ago yesterday, and it was a horrible anniversary. But since she passed, she is the only reason so far that I can actually see to the other side. So when I get to see her, I'm actually can put myself on the other side of the veil to be with her in spirit for a while. And how this happens to me is I had experienced her a few times before, and then finally, it was maybe 7 months after she passed, she showed me this green field that she's in, with kind of rolling green field of kind of tallish grass about this tall, running through it with just azure blue sky up there, no clouds in the sky, just green and blue, and it was lovely. And you could see, could almost feel, there was no sense of temperature, no sense of anything like that. It was just all just visual. But it's the only glimpse I've been able to see of the other side is with my dog who's passed. And she's tried to show me more. And she takes me on these journeys where she starts to run, and I'm running through the field with her, trying to get to her. And you might think this would be a dream, but this happens now while we're doing this. I say a prayer for her every evening, and she's taking me on that journey while I'm wide awake in the state. So I know it's not in a dream state that this is happening. This is happening because she's taking me there. As people who have, as we would say, died here, but as spirits have transitioned, they have taken me, and I get to see things that they show me, but they never show me the other side because it's not. My clients don't require what's on the other side. They just usually want to know whether their loved ones are happy, whether they're safe, whether they're in God's light. But most of the time, it's those spirits on the other side that are trying to give positive messages and trying to influence, the life of those on this plane to help them on their journey. So there's really no rationale or need for me at this juncture. I figure when Spirit wants me to see it, Spirit will let me know. They keep opening me up to new things all the time. And, how many times I don't know, Mark has heard me say things like, well, that's new, something will happen, I'll see a type of spirit or a type of entity I've never seen before. And I'm like, well, that's new. But
you saw your mom shortly after she passed, remember?
Yeah.
On the couch.
Absolutely. And that was again, it was my mom. So that was kind of it was great to see her. And it was a strange experience because normally I'm not related to the spirits I see. So to have my mom sit on the couch over here was odd and unusual, but lovely and fantastic. I really rarely have horrible experiences when I see spirit. If I am going to have a bad experience, they usually show me a day in advance or so, usually in my dream state, where they'll show me what's going to happen, so it prepares me for things. So, did I answer the question?
You did. I think you
Okay.
did a great job. Thank you. Okay, so the next one, two more. So
What
someone,
time is it? How much time do we
I'm not sure.
have? How many more watched today?
Yeah, SR asks, writes in and asks. Apparently SR is a medium also,
Oh,
like
okay.
you. And I only hear spirit. I don't see spirit though. Is there a way for me to open that side up?
Probably. I will go with the word probably. So what I'm going to say here is, one thing I kind of want to make clear is, if you have the gift, a God-given gift here in this way, where you're able to see, sense, feel, smell, taste, or whatever way that you're perceiving spirit, that if you're getting information, be thankful for the gift that you have, number one. Two, another person's gift, or if somebody has more ways of communicating with spirit, don't look at it as that you have some type of deficiency in some way, that you're not as quote unquote good as somebody else. It's all untrue. Look at it from a human perspective. We all have our senses. We have the taste and smell and what else? Hearing. And so we have all of these senses, but they always say, and I don't know it to be true, but you hear a lot that somebody loses their sense, their sight, that their hearing becomes better, their sense of touch becomes more enhanced. And similarly, to somebody who goes deaf, that they have their other senses are enhanced in some manner. So if you don't have, like, I get to do all of those things, I get to see and sense and feel and smell as a huge one that comes through when they, because I'll smell if somebody has a cigar scent or a cigarette smell or a perfume smell or something that is unique to a spirit, so that it's as a form of validation. But when that sort of thing happens, the fact that you're able to hear in this instance is fantastic. Look for the clarity that you get from the hearing. What are you hearing? Ask specific questions of what you want to know, and see if you're getting very clear answers. For example, I may have a spirit that walks in this house and I can see them very clearly, but for whatever reason, I may not hear that particular spirit. Doesn't happen often, but it does. But you, without seeing them, may be able to hear everything they're saying. So it doesn't make one better than the other. It's just a different way of interacting with spirit. Work with what you have, work with what you know. But also in spirituality, the best thing that you could do is always ask. Ask for your gifts to be enhanced. If you're ready for something, ask for it, but please don't be general in this regard. Always ask for, like asking, I want to see more, doesn't mean anything. If you want to see spirit, ask them for something very specific. I would like to see my spirit guides. Ask them for something that is easy, tangible. You can always move on from that, but ask for something specific. Don't leave it very general, because you may not like how they give it to you if it's very general. I've had mediums that I've known that have gone out and it's like, I want to hear, sense, I want to see and sense everything, and then all of a sudden they got what they asked for and they started seeing only negative stuff, and really had some really horrendous energies come their way, and then they wanted to turn it back off. So know what you're asking for. If you're going to go down that road, know the route that you're taking, would be my advice. But being able to hear is a great gift, and see if you can do something to enhance. One of the things that I found for myself, I think I talked about this in one of the shows with Robert's Haunted Pajama Party, was when I've always been afraid to see ghosts when they're very vivid. Still am to some extent. I don't like to be surprised. I like to know that they're around, and that's why I like to sense them first and kind of ease into seeing them, as opposed to walk around a corner and poof, there's somebody standing in front of me. I asked them to teach me in my dream state how to not be afraid of spirit. And so I asked them for that. 2 nights later, I had a very, very vivid dream where Mark and I were at a hotel someplace. It didn't make sense because we stayed in a lot of bed and breakfast. And, we walked up to the room, but the bathroom was downstairs. And so I had to leave the room, and I walked down the stairs. And now I got downstairs, I saw a man and a woman at a pool table, and they were playing billiards. And they just looked at me. They just smiled and kind of nodded their head and as just an acknowledgement that they saw me and I saw them, which was great. And I walked into the bathroom, and in my dream state, it dawned on me that, they were dressed in 1920s attire. They shouldn't be there. I got a strange feeling that they were ghosts. And in my dream state, I tore out of that bathroom, up the stairs, and slammed the door behind me, woke up huffing and puffing, scared to death. And I just knew I failed my test. I failed because I wanted to see it. They weren't doing anything bad. And so what I did immediately was put myself back into that dream state to go back, put myself in there. And then actually, instead of going into the bathroom downstairs, I actually walked up and talked to them, talked briefly with both of them. They were non-threatening, didn't do anything. It was a pleasant encounter. Everything was fine. And then went back upstairs. So I made them I didn't make them. I asked them to please test me in my dream state where I could deal with that type of thing a little bit easier than I could in my waking life. And that seemed to work for me. So you could set your limits, you can set the parameters, but you can ask for the things that you want to receive. And ask for it, pray for it. If it's necessary for your journey, more than likely it's given to you. If it's not necessary for your journey, don't look at them and curse them or do anything like, why aren't you getting what you want? That becomes ego related. And one of the worst things that you can do in spirituality is get your ego involved with what you're doing. So try and keep your ego out. The gift that you have, maybe the gift that you're supposed to have, don't take it lightly. But don't think yourself deficient because you can't do something else. Use the gift and the talent that you have, that God gave you, to help others, and help yourself in that process by elevating your own energy and your own vibration. Okay.
And we're going to end with my question.
No, that was it. Well, what time is it?
We have about 10 minutes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I'll take 10 minutes to answer this question.
10 or give or take. Okay. So one of because I consider myself in the past a healthy skeptic. I'm a lot less skeptical now, of course, knowing you.
And I was too. I was a skeptic too.
I think we all are. It's normal to be a little bit skeptical. But one of the questions that I've heard very skeptical people ask are, they'll throw a question out, okay, so if you're a medium and you're a psychic and you can see things, what are the lotto numbers? So what do you think about questions like that? And are we supposed to or not supposed to know stuff like that? And is there a reason?
Well, lotto numbers are funny. So you have a better chance of being struck by lightning than winning the lotto, right? But it's funny as a medium. So when people find out that I'm a medium, or some people know that I am already before I meet them, the first thing that comes out of the mouth usually is, "Do you get anything on me?" It's the first question. And it's like the second one or the first one is usually, what are the lotto numbers? First of all, if we could get them, there would be a lot of rich mediums out there. But again, spirituality is about getting what you need, not about what you want. And your spirit, and on the other side, money means nothing. So having the money here, the reasons that people win, sometimes people will win a jackpot, but the majority of people, I think, who win jackpots with lottery lose it all within like 5 years of winning. And a lot of times, there are lessons associated with things that happen to you in life. So getting all this wealth and then losing it all or something may be one of the lessons you're supposed to learn on this path. Similarly, not winning it and having to go through your life earning things on your own merit through your own efforts, through your spiritual being, of making sure that you're having the life that you're supposed to have in the way that you're supposed to have it, is necessary not to win the lottery. So it's like, you always hear the pseudo cliche that, God answers all your prayers, and sometimes that answer is no. That is kind of, while it's a bit cliche, it's also very, very accurate. I've asked for things with my gift that I probably wouldn't have been ready for years ago, that now have happened because now I'm mature enough and understand the process of what I've been given and what I'm supposed to do with it, where it may have taken me down different roads, if I would have been able to do things earlier. I don't know. Or maybe I was supposed to go through all the challenging aspects of spirit early in my life, so I knew how to help mediums go through, or knew how terrible it was to live with these entities, so that would become my life's work later on, of making people comfortable in their own home. And how do I do that? How do I go about that process? So the lottery numbers, specific to lottery numbers, I think it's fun. Continue to play. I know lots of mediums who play. I play on occasion. I think it's fun. I think it's interesting. Watch the downside of having it be an addiction or losing all of your money and throwing it in. I'd rather, quite frankly, that you took all that money to put into, an investment of some sort. Instead of spending $1,000 on the lottery, I'd rather that you put it into the stock market, or maybe, or something that a little more secure. But again, I think the simple answer is you get what you need from spirit, and sometimes you're needing to have that lotto. Maybe somebody else needs it more than you do. You may think you do, but maybe somebody else needs that more. Maybe their lesson on this plane is more germane than yours is through the money. Maybe sometimes you'll be getting it through an inheritance, and it'll come to you in a way that you didn't expect it. So life is just, sometimes I don't think that absolutely everything in our life is 100% decided upon at birth, that we do get to make our freedom of choices. And sometimes those choices that we make aren't the right choices for us in life, and we need to get back on our road and correct them. So I hope that works. Are there any other questions from anybody that's watching?
Great. Well, we do. Do we have time?
Absolutely. A couple more.
So, Becky wants to know, what was the funniest experience that you ever had with spirit?
Oy.
You've had several.
I've had several. Thanks, Becky. So interesting with spirit, the funniest one. Geez. I've had a lot of scary encounters that I remember all the time. The funny ones I don't seem to remember all the time. I guess the funniest one I think I told not too long ago.
The skateboard.
Well, that wasn't that funny.
Well, funny.
The funny one for me was like my mom teasing me. I get my mom very clearly, and my mom, I had a concussion, and I went through months of physical therapy to try and get my balance back and some other things. It was a pretty nasty little car accident. And when you have a brain scan and there's nothing wrong, they tell you that the results came back unremarkable. And so I'm walking in through the parking lot, of the doctor's office, and clear as day, I hear my mom just tell me right on the side. I could feel her, and I heard her clearly say, "I told you your brain was unremarkable." And I just burst out laughing in the middle of the parking lot. I didn't see her; she didn't materialize. She wasn't there, but she was there, and she said that thing to me. And it was her personality. It was funny. It was hysterical, and how she would have, were she here on this plane, it's one of those things. If I would have called her and said, "Hey, everything came out great," she would have said that exact same to me. So it really captured her personality. It was. Like her. Yeah. It really does. And but I can't think of anything. I've had so many. When things happen, sometimes I'm even amazed at when I do go to a reading or something, and I'll say something, like, okay, I've got a dog coming through for you. Like, who's Snickers? And they go, "That was my grandmother's dog. The dog died 25 years ago," or something. And it's like, I'm like, really? I surprised myself. That to me is kind of funny too, because it's just how funny that some unusual names and some stuff comes through sometimes that you just don't expect, and it takes you by surprise. And I find it amusing even when it happens for me, because again, like I said, I think I came with the gift kind of being a little skeptical sometimes. Like if I go to somebody's house and they're saying, well, I feel a breeze on my leg, and I feel that it's spirit or something, and I'll go, well, I'm not getting spirit. I'll walk into the room and there's like an air duct or something underneath the desk, it's coming from that. I like to look at the logical before I look toward the spiritual a lot of times, because people, when they're afraid, tend to jump to conclusions, and I want to kind of get down to brass tacks as far as what the real issue is. I'll have to think about the funny one. If I let you know, Becky, I'll tell you on another show. But that's about all I can think of at the moment. Any other ones?
So that's it for tonight. No, I'm not seeing anything else.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us again this evening. You will see Mark and I again relatively shortly. Mark and I are going to be a guest with Dr. Ruth Anderson. We're going to be talking about body image very shortly as a guest on a different show, and diet and nutrition from our perspective on our journeys in that light. So look for that as in the coming week or two. And I'm going to be on the next show talking about giving. I think we want to talk about what giving means to other people, what people get from charitable giving, and how that relates to their spirituality, how they took, what brought them to that journey, what they get out of it, as far as giving and receiving, and how it just is affected, and give light to some charities that that in this difficult times, charities are struggling as well. So please please watch, please share it, and let's look and seeing how we can help those who are having a real struggle during this time. It looks like it's getting a little bit worse now than better. So we send our prayer and love and light out to those who are really suffering from the disease right now, particularly here in our state of Florida, where we're having a huge resurgence at the moment. Health and healing to all of you who are suffering. Please stay safe. Please wear a mask. And we will see you all again next week at Tuesday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on the Enlightened World Network, Enlightened Living. Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.